up to now. Okay, I'm going to disable this chat because now I'm going to start the PowerPoint. Is it full screen? Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, wonderful. Please try and speak up and answer because now I will not be looking at the chat. And in case you have questions, then please help me to answer them by either calling them out or indicating that I should stop in some way. Okay? Right. So, what is chatter? What does chatter do to you? Is there anyone here who has not experienced chatter and whose mind is completely quiet and composed? Come, students, unmute yourself and answer. Anyone?
No, ma'am.
No? Most of the day, most of the time, we are constantly experiencing inner chatter. Now, when is it chatter? And is chatter all bad? That is what we are going to look at in this session. So what is chatter? Now, I'm doing a simulation exercise. Just play with me. Imagine that you love so-and-so to bits, and that person is in your house. Imagine that you love so-and-so to bits. Last evening, he or she sneezed twice and seemed to be coming down with a cold. The next day, you wake up feeling a little anxious, only to find the morning newspaper has a headline which says, "A nasty new viral fever is spreading rapidly. Look out for body rashes." Your loved one is speaking soundly. You cannot disturb him or her. What happens in your mind and body? Take your time and give me your responses. You can read through it again. It's a very simple situation to imagine. You love someone, that person has sneezed the previous day, and the next day morning newspaper headlines are, "A nasty new viral fever is spreading rapidly and look out for body rashes." You want to check out the body rashes, but you can't because you cannot disturb the person who's sleeping so soundly. Now, my interest is in the last line, the question there. What happens in your mind and body?
Okay, so according to me, ma'am, I feel our brain, or you start feeling very fearful, and all the negative thoughts start coming in your mind. Like, yeah, should I go and check, or what if this viral start is happened to my loved one? So
Right,
all sorts of negative thoughts.
right. Is it likely to also spiral into, "Oh my God, now can this also affect me and the rest of the people in my house?" Does it also get into that kind of spiral? Did anyone experience that kind of negative spiral?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Oh, is it going to be infectious? Do I need a vaccine? Do I need to go and see the doctor? It goes on and on and on. And all that has happened is that person has sneezed once or twice, right? This is mind chatter. And every kind of situation in our life becomes a source for mind chatter. Last time we talked about the habits of the mind. So which of the three apply here? Do you remember those? Which of the three? If not, we'll come to them later. We talked about the habits of the mind. It seems to cling to things which are negative because of our negativity bias. If we thought of this differently, what is the interpretation we could give this? Probably that person just sneezed once or twice because of some dust or some irritation, nothing to worry about. But then when it's coupled with this kind of news headline, it seems to worry us and our mind gets into chatter. Are you with me?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Yeah? Okay. Okay. So then let's carry on. We all talk to ourselves. And what scientists tell us that it's shocking how fast we do it. At the rate of, can you read this? Can you see the slides clearly? 4,000 words a minute. Can we talk like that? We can't utter 4,000 words a minute, but because thought is energy, it just goes so rapidly in our mind. To say the same words out loud, these 4,000 words, we would take close to 1 hour. So can you imagine? This is per minute, 4,000 thoughts per minute, as against 4,000 words per hour. This is how rapidly thoughts in the form of energy move through our mind. And perhaps you'd remember the earlier quote from Gandhiji, and you will again remind yourselves that our thoughts become our emotions become our actions and words and destiny. So when there is so much of clutter here, then the mind is not free, it's not calm enough to be able to regulate itself, because it is regulated by chatter. Is this clear? Is this clear?
Yes,
yes,
ma'am.
yes.
Okay. Now, a very quick question. I am all for technology, but technology, like every single thing that we human beings have created, has a bright side or an ego side and a negative side, which is largely the shadow side. Now, we know, let's take an example of drones. We know that drones can plant 1 lakh trees in a day, which no group of humans can plant, right? But we also know that drones can be used for killing. So everything about technology is like this. It is like a brilliant, sharp knife. You can use it for good things. You can use it to chop vegetables effectively or to do surgeries, but it can also be used for killing. Now, my question to you in relation to our work today is, what does technology do to your mind? Have you observed that?
Yes, ma'am. We are more dependent on it.
You're
Rather,
more and more dependent on it. Somehow I'm picking up a lot of echo. So can that be corrected, please? The words are echoing. If that can be corrected, please. All right, let's try again. So technology is now a part of our lives. We are not going to be able to do without it. But what we need to realize is that like everything else that we human beings have created, technology can move very, very quickly from magic to manic to toxic. Magic, when it first comes out, oh my God, it is absolute magic. Think of our smartphones when they first came out. You know, and even today, there is a lot of magic to the smartphone. You don't need that many gadgets. You don't need an alarm clock. You don't need a separate computer. You don't need separate maps or anything, because everything is available on our smartphones. So it is magic in that sense. But then if we are not vigilant, it could very quickly become manic. Now, when I say this word manic, what are the things you can think of, students?
Losing your mind.
Losing your mind, you can't do without it. right? If there is a notification, you have to pick up and see. If you are constantly picking up your devices, your electronic devices, and you are getting more and more dependent on the devices, and of course, to a very large extent, your relationships with people suffer. When people of my generation talked about hanging out, we thought that we were going to a coffee shop. Now you can hang out on your smartphones, on your digital devices, and meet friends. But is it the same? Is it the same as meeting people in person? Now, I can say today that because my toe is really and honestly injured, I could not make it. But this is not the form in which I like to relate to you. I love relating to you in person. Why? Do you feel the same way, or are you kids okay with connecting on digital devices?
No, ma'am, we want to live.
Yeah, we like, why? Why? Again, there is a scientific reason to it. Each one of us neurologically has mirror neurons in us. And the mirror neurons are picking up the emotions of other people. All right. You might have realized that sometimes you enter a room and you suddenly feel a little upset and disquiet. What has happened? Everything is energy, as Einstein has told us, and all of science subsequently. So everything is energy. You're picking up something which is energetically discordant, right? It's out of tune. And therefore, you are feeling that way. When you are with friends, the camaraderie, the feeling of oneness comes from mirror neurons, which are picking up all these positive emotions, which cannot happen with technology. So, very quickly, we also know it's, again, not any kind of judgment, but a matter of fact that even when we are sitting and eating, if at all, our dinner with our loved ones, the minute the phone rings, we are with the phone. We could be having a 1 hour phone-free time, but we have already become manic about technology. And technology is adding to the clutter, which is already there in your mind. Believe me, I'm not joking when I say that I know at least 2 people who, the minute they feel unwell, they are on Google trying to find out the cause of their illnesses. And interestingly, Google makes you feel more ill than you actually are. It tells you could probably be having this or probably be having that. And it's not funny when these people actually run to the chemist and they buy tablets for illnesses which may not be there, only because it's so hypothetical. And Google says these are sure signs of this. I think you get what I mean. Technology.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you do. Anything. If you don't agree, please, students, you're free to say that. But aren't we getting more and more obsessed with our digital devices, which are telling us how to be, how to think, how to feel? It's not something which can be taken lightly. In November last year, I was with a cybercrime specialist in Bangalore, and we were both sharing the podium and we were doing sessions one after the other. And my session went on first. I was a keynote speaker, after which he spoke. What he spoke was extremely disturbing to me. And of course, you being younger people, you might already be knowing this. I did not. I did not know how important it is to have that many likes on your social media, on your Facebook, on your Insta. Teachers are telling me now that if kids don't have that many likes, they are ostracized by the rest of the group. Nobody sits with them and has lunch with them. Now, this is Very, very disturbing. So what does the person do? What does a child do? The child creates avatars, the child buys the likes from Insta and from Facebook and other places, I believe. I've never gotten to that kind of thing, so I wouldn't know. But he told me that they buy the likes. And initially, the likes are only at 1 rupee, and then they get more and more expensive. The child is desperate to be accepted by the in-group, and the child will do anything for that. And that leads the child into all kinds of dangerous avenue and opens them up to cybercrime. And they expose their body parts because that is one more way to get likes. And when I asked this person, the speaker, Mr. Rajshekhar, that which is the age group that you're talking about, and he shocked me when he said the age group is 8 to 12-year-old kids. Are you aware of any of this? This is to
Yes,
me.
ma'am, we are.
Yeah. And you fall prey to it.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am, we
ma'am.
are.
And it can become extremely dangerous then. And games like Blue Whale and all, which challenge you to do things, which glorify suicide. I think these are the toxic parts of technology. So technology, to come back to what I was saying, very, very quickly moves from magic to manic to toxic. Now, you have to decide that as it is, there is so much of mind chatter which goes on. Do we want to constantly add to it? Can we restrict the number of hours that we are going to be on our digital devices? A very, very important question, a mental health issue these days. Do you agree with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am,
Or
we do.
is there
Yes, ma'am.
anything that I haven't got right? Please feel free to correct me.
Ma'am, I think majority
Yes,
of
ma'am. Yes.
what you are saying.
Yeah, so at least as trainee teachers, we can be very, very sharp and vigilant when we see that a child is unable to concentrate. You know, it's not just that his mind is wandering and he's distracted. There is something perhaps a lot deeper. And if we can't dig into it, we need to refer the child to a psychologist who needs to know about these things. By the way, I need to tell you that as teacher trainees, if any of you are interested, I could give you the website, and constantly this institute in Bangalore keeps creating courses to make adults aware of what these tweens, they are called tweens, 8 to 12, are undergoing. So I think I'm going to do that course because if I'm into education, I need to know about this kind of thing. So of course, the first step would be that we control our own screen time. So with that, let's carry on. Now, the inner voice, as I insinuated at the beginning of today's session, is not all bad. Our inner voice is a unique gift to evaluate our actions, to learn from our past mistakes, and to better prepare for our future. So, what are we supposed to do with our inner voice? In a moment, I'll come to it. Are we going to let the inner voice guide us into fruitful behavior and action? Or are we going to let our inner voice sabotage us? Unfortunately, this voice often turns into a stream of negative thoughts and emotions. We talked about it last time, that someone is critical of something you did or the way you appear or whatever, and you get into a mental loop. And it just snowballs. It becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. I gave you the funny example of meeting you outside the class and not recognizing you, and how immediately your mind keeps saying, oh my God, she is quite a snob. She is not a very, very friendly person. And then When the situation changes, again, your thoughts change. So unfortunately, this inner voice turns into a stream of negative thoughts and emotions. Now, when it turns into a stream, obviously what we need to do is to block it, to cut it. How do we do that? We'll come to that very soon. If we are unable to do it, then it damages our physical and mental health, it derails our career, and it damages our social lives. See, students, this entire program is designed to empower you. I am hoping that you seriously work on this, not just to do a formative or a summative assessment, but to take this course seriously and work on yourself. Because if you continue working on yourself, you will feel empowered to manage your mind and your emotions, your behavior, your outcome. And you will see the positive results of it as far as your mental and physical health is concerned, your career and your social lives. Our inner voice gives us the ability to imagine, remember, and reflect on choices and experiences. Very, very important. The road to imagination leads to freedom. There's a difference between imagination and fantasy. Fantasy is something which cannot come true, which you are only spending time enjoying yourself with. But the road to imagination is a different road. What the imagination sees as its beauty must be the truth. Everything before it was created in the physical world was imagined. Every article we use, every scientific invention, every theory, every major thought which has changed the world has first been imagined. So usually when we say, oh, so-and-so is of the very imaginative type, we almost use a derogatory tone for it, but that is not it. It's the most precious human ability. If we would not be able to imagine, we would not be able to create. So the inner voice gives us the ability to imagine, to remember. For anything you do, you first have to imagine and say, well, I think I'd like to do this, and the consequences would be these. You imagine it, then remembering and reflecting on the choices and experiences. Well, I spoke to so-and-so in this manner. How effective was it? Was I hurting that person when I said that? Again, I keep telling you that we are not talking about being hypocritical. We are talking about being able to have that control and speak our truth. What are the two words I've used, students? Speak our truth. Peacefully and powerfully. Yes, speak our truth peacefully and powerfully. So if there is a situation in which the outcome has not been good for you or for that person, it doesn't mean that you get into mental chatter and a negative spiral where you say, oh, I'm so hopeless, I shouldn't have said this. Okay, it's done. It's over and done. Now, henceforth, when this kind of situation comes up, can I choose to behave, to utter words differently? So it's so important, this kind of inner voice, to reflect on choices and experiences. Secondly, to provide us with the freedom to mentally time travel by returning to past memories or imagining future scenarios. The other day we said the mind completely oscillates between the past and the present, but this is for a good reason. Oh, in the past, I behaved like this. Whatever has happened, if an event has happened, it's already in the past. It may be a minute ago. But with your imagination, you go back to your past and you say, this worked, this did not work. So in future, I think This will be my behavior. These will be my words. All right? Yes?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am. Yes,
All right.
ma'am.
By engaging in this kind of introspection, we can improve our ability to learn, grow, and adapt to new information and experiences. Just imagine that if we did not have this capacity, then forget about knowledge. Every single day, we would have to start learning from ABCD again, or 1, 2, 3, 4. You get that? Thank God we are able to remember. Thank God we are able to imagine. Thank God we are able to time travel. Because that is how we learn, we grow, and we adapt to new information and experiences. Now, chatter. Therefore, what is chatter? If we talked about the inner voice, having both the positive and the negative aspects, the negative aspect is called chatter. It is the dark side of introspection. Introspection, turning inwards, turning the flashlight into your inner landscape. Okay? So chatter occurs when we get stuck in a loop of negative thoughts or emotions, which hurts our ability to reason logically, solve problems, or control ourselves. As a result of it can prevent us from finding real solutions to life's challenges. Okay, students, give me examples from your life of chatter. Anyone? Anyone?
I think when we have fight at home with our loved ones, in the moment we don't realize it, and even after going back, instead of introspecting on what could have been the rational part of it, we start saying, "Hey, I should not have done this. I was on the wrong. I must have hurt her. Now I'm feeling bad." And I think that can be anything.
Very true. Very, very true. Very true.
Even after losing our self-respect in front of someone, as in we were talking about something and we realized that I have kept my self-respect somewhere else and I've not respected my own self rather than respecting the others. That would be also a chatter in our brains.
Absolutely. Thank you, Shalki. Really good. Anyone else? Any other examples that you have from your own life of
Let
So,
chatter?
after some failure or embarrassment that we experience in life, it happens.
Hmm. Hmm. Especially when there is, you're absolutely right. When there is failure or embarrassment, it just goes on and on and on endlessly in your mind. What do you do then? You become a victim of it, isn't it? You suffer as long as that chatter and those loops, they dominate you. Very, very good. Wonderful examples. Anyone else?
In case if there's something that doesn't goes our way, or even we think about that, and there's continuous like this thought popping up in our mind that this is not what I was expecting or what I was supposed to do.
Brilliant. Do you realize that in all these cases that you have very, very correctly articulated, it is the past and that situation itself cannot be changed, right? Whatever has happened in the past cannot be changed. Now you can change it by cutting that loop and stopping the chatter so that you can get into some kind of solution. As I've always said, it can be brought up from the unconscious reptilian mammalian brain to the neocortex, and we can deal with it. Okay. Chatter can cause us to ruminate endlessly about the past, worry about the future, and be indecisive in the present moment. Look at this slide, think of what we did last time, and tell me, where is the problem here?
the oscillation between the future and the past and
Yes,
not living in the present.
Exactly, because as we said, the only change that we can make in the present moment. And that present moment is lost because of the oscillation between past and future, past and future, past and future. Right? Okay? Also,
Yes,
a
ma'am.
very, very major idea that we constantly need to keep in our minds is that if something has happened in a certain way now, we can break that pattern. I always respond in a certain way to certain things which are said to me. Okay. So that is my pattern. But I can break that pattern. That is where the empowerment comes in. Okay. Just on a lighter note, this is a lovely poem by George Humphrey, The Centipede's Dilemma. A centipede was happy quite until a toad in fun said, "Pray, which leg moves after which?" This raised her doubts to such a pitch, she fell exhausted in a ditch, not knowing how to run. Of what significance is this short poem to what we are doing?
I think it raises
Ma'am,
self-doubt within ourselves.
Yes, the self-doubt sabotages us and we are incapable of taking action. The centipede was happy, quite happy, until a toad in fun said, "Pray, which leg moves after which?" And you know, a centipede has 100 legs. Now the centipede had to say, "I don't care. I use all my 100 legs. I don't care to know which one moves after which." Instead of that, it raised her doubts to such a pitch. And she went on with that mental chatter. She felt exhausted in a ditch, not knowing how to run. This is such a brilliant short poem to say how chatter sabotages us. And because we are unaware of it, we allow it to sabotage us. Somebody was saying something?
Yes, ma'am, I was saying, even the in this case, centipede case, uh, centipede was happy. For example, if we are happy and someone sees us happy, they point us that why are you happy or why are you doing this? That point we also have self-doubt in us.
Very true. What did we say last time, Shalki? That hurt people hurt others.
because of the toad was jealous of the centipede
Yes,
and then he
probably,
made him into a
probably, or
yes.
just asked in fun. The toad just asked in fun. We assume that people are jealous of our happiness and they want to ruin our happiness. It might not be that. It may be that, but it might not be that. It could be something entirely different. It could be the hurt that the
It could
person
be out
is
of curiosity.
experiencing. Yeah, it could be curiosity. It could be just but it's more likely that, you see, if, psychologists have studied the psychology of bullies, and everyone knows what bullying is. And they have found out that a bully is always a hurt person, which is not to say that the behavior can be exempted. No, we are not condoning the behavior. But it's only a hurt person who bullies others and derives joy from it. You know? So it's the same thing. Last time I spoke to your students about the snow globe concept. Snow globe, each of us are in our own snow globe of our subjectivity. What is happening to us, our thinking patterns, our feeling patterns, the way we emote cannot be known to anyone else. It's not even known to us most of the time, and the whole program is directed towards it. But what is important is I do not know. I can be empathetic towards you, but I will not know all your thoughts and emotions and feelings. So I may say something in fun or lightly or out of jealousy or out of whatever. That is my rubbish. It's not yours, but you are taking it on. The centipede had a choice of not being affected by it, but the centipede chose to be affected by it. Do you see that? Now, you will say it's human to feel hurt. Of course, it's human to feel hurt. But again, the pause, we'll talk about that in a minute. The pause is so important because with the pause, you can cut that stream of negativity. Any responses?
Ma'am, may I ask a question?
Yes, please.
So, you know how psychology says that people's reactions and actions are usually an effect of their trauma. And I have a habit of getting into this behavior where I always give the other person the upper hand. But where do we draw the line so that it doesn't start affecting us?
Very interesting, Benisha. Benisha, this is brilliant. This is called boundary setting. How can you set boundaries unless you know that this is their thinking, or in worst case scenarios, their garbage? I will not give in. I will draw a line and not constantly bend over backwards. I hope, please let me know if by the end of the course you are able to manage this aspect. See,
Sure.
don't be very ambitious about this course. This course is literally, as I said, for a lifetime. Take on one issue at a time. Whatever is your personal issue, take on one issue at a time and work it through. Okay? All right?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, most welcome. Let's carry on. The key to overcoming chatter is not to avoid introspection or to ignore our inner voice. Instead, it is to manage the conversation more effectively. Now, we can use our thoughts to change our thoughts. Use our thoughts to change our thoughts rather than trying to hide from it. Even last time when we talked about the mind, we said that no negativity should be suppressed or repressed. You have to face it boldly. You have to deal with it. If you feel depressed for whatever reason, I don't like to use the word depressed because it's used very, very loosely. Actually, only a psychologist should be able to use the word depressed. It's a clinical condition. But if let's use the word upset. If you feel upset and you say, "Oh, I'm feeling so upset, I'm going to eat. I'm going to eat my favorite comfort foods. I'm going to go for a dance party and just work it out." It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. The end result is going to be that you are probably going to binge eat, feel lousy about it later, and whip yourself even further. It's not going to help. Neither is a dance party or any kind of substance that you might want to use, thinking that it will help you to overcome it. It won't. It'll only worsen the situation. So, the key word here is the word manage. How is it we have MBAs? MBAs talking about how to manage this and how to manage business, and nobody talks about an MBA for self-growth or self-management? I think it's high time we do it. Not because it's my pet idea, but important. So we can choose. What is our choice? Are we going to listen to our inner coach or our inner critic? And our inner coach can buoy us up and lend focus. And the inner coach will say, "Come on, just try it. You can do this. Just put in a little extra effort. Just go the extra mile and you will succeed." But in contrast, the inner critic derails us. And it says, "You are going to fail. They will all laugh at you. What is the use? You don't have the capacity for it. Why even try?" When we do the shadow entities, we'll come to an entity called the lazy layabout. And the lazy layabout is usually the person who's terrified of trying because of the inner critic. The inner critic tells him, "Don't try, you're going to fail. And when you fail, you're going to be jeered at or hated." Does anyone agree with this, what we've talked about? Have you experienced both the inner coach and the inner critic?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
And
yes,
and
ma'am.
count the number of times you've given in to your inner critic.
Many times.
Multiple times,
Yes,
ma'am.
unfortunately, all of us. Like I have a mental block for mathematics. So I just, if there is anything to do with maths and somebody even tries to explain it to me, my inner critic just sabotages me and tells me, oh, you're a duffer at maths. You can't do maths. And in fact, I can do things, simple maths, and very powerfully and effectively. But there is this inner critic who makes me feel I can't. Of course, that is rooted in a childhood trauma where I was literally victimized by a teacher when I was in the second class standard. Never mind that. Now I know it. I know that because of this victimization, I have this mental block. But I need to work on this kind of mental block and at such times not let my inner critic's voice dominate my inner coach's voice. Even when you thought of becoming a teacher.
Ma'am, excuse me.
Yeah,
Does it mean that we can change our inner critic to our inner coach?
absolutely. Absolutely,
Okay.
Amaria. We can do that. The whole idea is to do it. The whole point of teaching you this particular issue on chatter is that, but see, you don't have to be unrealistic. What I'm saying is, you don't have to be unrealistic. Your inner coach will tell you, do it. Then you weigh the pros and cons. In order to do it well, do I need to take a special course to strengthen this ability? Do I need to do something else to strengthen it? Just don't have any kind of false illusions. Those are not by the inner coach. An inner coach will not give you false illusions, but there is a very thin line between fantasy and possibility. So you have to cling to the possibility. The inner. So now take a real life situation. You thought of doing your B.Ed, and your inner coach said, do it. It's something you love doing, and you will probably succeed extremely well. Did anyone experience any chatter from an inner critic?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am. Yes.
Can you share that?
Um,
Oh,
Ma'am, I have done
okay.
my master's.
Hmm.
So it kind of came from me ki, how many years will you study for more? Is it
Yeah,
necessary to
very
go for
good. I
B.Ed?
can't just go on studying. I have to do
Yeah,
something. Yeah, great.
why can't we
Thank
do
you,
it?
Samiksha.
Why can't we do
Anyone
it in
else? Yeah.
I also had the same thing that a lot of people telling me also, my own critic as well, ki you've already done your masters, you're 23 now, do something. Oh, your friends are doing a job now, you're still studying, all of that.
Excellent. Excellent. Somebody else?
Ma'am, in my case, I wanted to do something else, but I went against my family and I did my master's. I had listened to my inner coach rather than my critic in some cases, not in most of the cases, but I have listened to it. So I've tried doing it. I have thought about all the positive as well as the negative thoughts, what can happen in future, keeping everything in my mind.
Okay. Okay. What happened to me when I started doing my B.Ed was that I'd had a lot of people tell me that, why are you going to be a teacher? Don't you know
Yes,
that it is not a well-paid job?
yes,
Have you heard that,
yes,
Tabassum?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes.
My teachers were always telling me when I'm in my graduation year. So I told them कि I'm going to do B.Ed. तो sir ऐसा बोलते थे कि why? Why you are doing B.Ed? It's not good. ये वो उससे अच्छा तुम कुछ और करो. B.Ed is not good. But my inner coach is telling me you have to be a teacher, and that's why I
How
chose.
lovely is that? How lovely is that,
That's true.
Tabassum? Yeah, because that happened to me when I finished my double graduation, my MA with literature. I wanted to teach. And everyone said, are you crazy? You're getting into a profession that hardly pays anything. You won't be able to keep your body and soul together. But I was desperate to teach because I knew it was my calling. From the age of 3, I was writing to Santa Claus for blackboard and chalk. And I knew even today, I want to do nothing but teach. I can't think of another career. So yeah, that's the inner coach. And if you listen to the inner coach, then the inner coach is going to advise you correctly. But what the advice is should be supported by actual programs or actual training that you need to undergo. Oh, I'm an excellent teacher, I'm going to teach anyway. No, I need to keep upgrading myself. In the true sense of the term, I need to be a lifelong learner. Even now, at the age of 67, I'm constantly doing new courses. Twice a year, I sign up for psychology courses from the Jung platform of different universities, which do Jung. So this is not one. For my own spiritual growth, I do that. So I'm constantly learning. So I am supporting the advice of my inner coach by doing this kind of work. Do you get that? Do you get that? Yes?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
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 All right. So how do we manage chatter on our own? You don't need to take medicine or tranquilizers to silence your mind. Those are very, very, very temporary solutions. So let's see something. Of course, if anyone is on medication, at no stage will I ever say that discontinue medication. But if you are on medication, you need to also still see how you can gain more control gradually. The same thing we said last time, moving out of negative spirals with pause, stage 1, stage 2, accept it, stage 3, name it, stage 4, support it. Now we will specifically apply all of this to chatter. Step 1, pause, center yourself. Quieten with music. We talked about music last time. So quieten your mind with music. You may like some aromas. I love aromas. Chanting, breathing. My two choice, I use all 4 at different times. Even a few deep breaths are going to help you center. Oh my God, she said something which is very upsetting to me. Can I? You'll say, oh, at that time, I just can't do something. If you say that, well, you will fall prey to your inner critic. But if you say, no, I will at least give it a shot. I'll try. Nothing great and grand. I don't need aromas. I don't need music. I don't need anything. Just a little bit of chanting, maybe. Whatever be the chant that you resonate with. Or it could be something as simple as 5 deep belly breaths. You know that most of us have not been taught to breathe correctly. When we breathe correctly, at the inhalation, the belly goes out, and at the exhalation, it goes in. Most of us are doing it wrong. But if for 5 minutes, you can take a deep breath, count 1, 2, 3, 4, and when you exhale, you count up to 6. If you do just 5 deep breaths before starting to deal with your chatter, you will find that you are able to control your mind better. Has anyone experienced this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone experience this?
Yes, ma'am. During our boards, specifically, we are advised by the all of the teachers and the board members that if there is some difficulty, yeah, or else we are not able to concentrate, we should breathe. Yeah, take a sip of water and just try to concentrate back. So I think breathing does help to calm ourselves down, and also it does helps in getting our mind concentrated on one place.
Right, right. Anyone else?
And I think even when we are angry or when we are about to cry, we try to do deep breaths to calm down our emotions.
Yeah, because the breath is the link between the mind and the body. And if you notice in our program, we have a special workshop on breath work and yoga. So you will definitely know this by the end of it.
Ma'am,
Yeah, sure.
so I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but when we do this, when we breathe before thinking, we generally do. We generally calm ourselves before talking to somebody when we are angry. But when we are talking to ourselves, why do we need to calm ourselves? Then how will we be true to ourselves?
Very good. Very good question. When you find that your mind is going into a negative spiral, just say, I need to stop. I need to connect with the calmer aspect of myself with my breath or through chanting or aroma or music, and then start rethinking the situation. That pause will change everything for you,
Okay,
even when you're dealing with yourself.
okay.
Yeah, sure. Tell me, Tabassum.
मैम इफ मैं हिंदी में बोल रही हूँ मैम अगर हम लोग कुछ सोचते रहते हैं लाइक एक दिन आई वांट टू टेल यू माय ओन एक्सपीरियंस कि हमारे ग्रुप में क्या हुआ कि किसी ने कुछ मैसेज भेजा था देन मैंने बोला कि ये क्या, एक लड़की ने पूछा कि ये क्या है, तो मैंने बोला कि कुछ होगा। देन उसने भी एक मैसेज किया कि तू ही हंस ले तेरे जोक पर। तो वो मुझे इतना हर्ट हुआ लाइक मैं बहुत ज्यादा सोच रही थी उसके बारे में और मैंने उसकी वजह से ग्रुप लीव भी कर दिया और मैं पूरी रात सोई ही नहीं। मैं वही सोच रही थी वो ऐसे क्यों बोली क्यों। और फिर उसके बाद में सुबह उठने मैंने मेरे दो फ्रेंड्स को भी बताया वो ऐसे बात कर रही है, इतना रूड है। और मैम मैं वही सोच रही थी पूरी रात। फिर सुबह क्लास में आकर फिर मैंने उसको देखा, फिर मैंने उससे बात नहीं किया। देन वो खुद आकर बोली कि तबस्सुम मैं मेरे कहने का वो मतलब नहीं था, तुम गलत समझ रही हो। तो कई बार ऐसा होता है कि लोग कहना कुछ और चाहते हैं पर हम उसको गलत ले लेते हैं।
Absolutely. You're right, Tabassum. Last time we spoke again, I'm again reminding you of the snow globe of subjectivity. उनके दिमाग में क्या था तो उन्हीं को पता है, आपको नहीं पता है. And if instead of
क्या मैम कैन यू रिपीट?
what is happening in the other person's mind is only known to the other person. It
बट
can't be
मैम
known to you.
व्हाट वी कैन डू के मतलब उस टाइम पर मैं काम डाउन हो ही नहीं रही थी, मैं
Okay.
बार बार
Okay.
वही सोच रही थी।
Now just imagine that instead of she wrote this message that it's not a joke and you felt hurt. Suppose you would have written back to say that to me it is a joke, haha.
और मैम क्लास वालों ने भी किसी ने रिस्पांस भी नहीं दिया, कोई हंसा भी नहीं।
Why
मुझे
did
बुरा लगा।
you want that support? Again, you see, we are constantly looking outside us for validation. That is our problem, because when we come to the pleaser Tabassum, you will find a lot of interest in that particular sub-personality. We come to the sub-personality of pleaser very soon in January. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Step
Ma'am, I
2.
have a point to make.
Sorry. Yeah.
You were talking about physically calming yourself. So I read once that your brain responds to physiological changes in your body.
Of course.
So if your heartbeat increases, your mind goes into overdrive, into a fight or flight response. So
Right.
by calming your body physically, you can calm your mind.
That's the first step we are calling supported, no, Sadia?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And we will be doing that in the next few minutes when we do anger. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Step 2, coach your mind and remind yourself what are the 3 truths about the mind? The mind is prone to negativity bias. It lives mainly in the past or future, and it is an unparalleled storyteller. Now, what did Tabassum do? Tabassum made up a whole story in her mind attributing anger, jealousy, all these emotions to that person, till that person came and clarified the next day that I had none of this in mind. Am I right, Tabassum?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Yeah? Okay,
Yes.
so remember these. Step 3. So that is your inner coaching. Coach your mind and remind yourself of these basic truths about your mind. Step 3.
Ma'am, I
Yeah,
wanted to add
Shanti?
something.
Sure.
In Tabassum case, every situation has, for example, a coin has two sides. So every situation has two sides. If she had portrayed that thing in her mind, later on explaining it, she might regret that I have reacted and I have put my energy on this situation inappropriately and I should haven't wasted my energy on this. So she had wasted her own time on her situation.
Correct. So next time, all you have to do is not whip yourself and say, oh, why did I do it? And why did I waste so much time? It happened. It's okay. We are human. We make mistakes. That's all right. But next time when this kind of situation happens, I will not become a victim. That's all. Make sense? It's a
Yes,
conscious
yes.
decision. It's not that you won't feel bad next time it happens. You will feel bad. But then you cut
We are
that.
humans.
We are human. You cut
Yes.
that. But now you know how to cut that. Huh? Step 3. Write 3 positive thoughts for the negative thought that caused you to spiral. Now, in your case, the whole class can do this. Tabassum felt slighted, jeered, undervalued because this is the way it was dealt with, that it's not even a joke. Now, for this negative thought that I'm rejected, I'm regarded as stupid, can you write the possible 3 positive thoughts? Anyone?
Yes, ma'am. So
Yes, Siddhant?
can I say it out loud?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that one positive thought can be that the other person felt comfortable enough on the group in front of everyone, that she felt comfortable with her friendship with Tabassum enough that she could voice out what she thought to her.
Correct.
That was one positive thing, I think.
Huh. Next. Anyone? It could be the truth. It could be that she's not in a very good mood and she did not find it funny.
Or she, in Tabassum case, that friend, she might be thinking that if any other person would make a joke about it, let me just straightforwardly tell her that this is the thing.
Yeah, so to prevent her from being hurt by somebody else. So let me be honest with her. Yeah, it could be anything. You see, as a head of the department in the university, I used to tell my students that you can come to me with as many problems as necessary. I'm always there for you. But you must also come with at least 2 possible solutions to the problem. And then we'll debate it. You see, the minute you start thinking about it from the other side, the situation changes for you. Okay? Use
Ma'am,
distance.
yeah,
Yeah,
sorry,
sure.
but one of the positive
Not
thing
sorry,
could be,
please.
yeah, one of the positive thing also here is that Tabassum agreed or accepted that yes, her friend is not wrong. Because many a times, even if after clarification, we tend to uh, not accept that what
Very true. Very true. And she's only trying to save her face and she's just making excuses for her behavior. Very true. It could happen. And it may be also true of that person, but the fact that that person reflected on it, felt bad about it, and thought it necessary to even try and clarify to Tabassum, it need not be the truth, shows that that person is eager for Tabassum's friendship, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay?
Ma'am,
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
ma'am, isn't this a positive thing that the that Tabassum is able to express her thoughts,
of course.
whether it is silly or
Of
it
course,
has
most
some meaning?
definitely. It takes a lot of courage to do that.
Because
It takes
many a
a lot
times,
of
ma'am, it
courage
happens.
to
It
make yourself
happens.
vulnerable.
Yeah, ma'am. Because many a times, because like we are, afraid that people will make a mockery of us.
You're very
So,
right.
because of these, we tend to bottle our feelings inside with, it hurts us only and
Correct.
affects our mind.
Correct.
So, this is a good thing that she did. That she, expressed
Absolutely.
her thoughts, so that there is a flow of like the negativity is not held within her, but
Correct.
it's given out uh,
You're
by her.
absolutely right. And I think that by Tabassum showing this courage and talking about it, it has benefited the whole group.
मैम दैट टाइम आई आल्सो डिसाइडेड एट नाइट के अब से मैं किसी से कुछ बोलूंगी नहीं, मैं क्लास में बात भी नहीं करूंगी, मैं चुपचाप रहूंगी और ग्रुप में तो कुछ बोलूंगी ही नहीं। बट
कट्टी,
मेरे मेरे अंदर
सबके
वो
साथ कट्टी।
बट मैम वो क्वालिटी है ही नहीं कि मैं चुप रह सकती हूँ। लाइक एक है गोल के सब मेरे वजह से मेरा मुंह देखे तो खुश हो जाए, बस यही गोल है।
Ma'am,
Good, no?
talking about the chatter, she is the chatterbox of our college or of our class particularly.
Do I remember right that I said that labels are for jars?
Not for humans.
Huh? No labeling anyone. Okay, so step 4, use distance self-talk. Imagine advising a friend who is in that situation in the presence of someone you look up to. So what is happening is exactly this. We've already done this. That in the presence of your teacher, you are advising a friend and saying, maybe it's like this, maybe it's like that. It could be anyone. Just imagine the person you're super fond of, and that person is in the room and somebody has talked about it. Take your problem and actually externalize it using what psychologists call distance self-talk. So in my case, for instance, it would be, okay, so Coomi, you're really feeling bad about it, but I don't think that is the only way to look at it. The fact that you're feeling bad, I'm not negating that. I'm not belittling that. But it could be this, it could be that. All right? So exactly what we've been doing in the past few moments is step 4. Identify your positive triggers and flood your mind with uplifting music, a walk in nature. For me, any kind of situation can be resolved by when I go for my morning walk. That's a sacred time to me. Today, psychologists are talking about NDD. Does anyone know what NDD is? They're calling it NDD, which means nature deficit disorder. Nature deficit disorder. We are not spending as much time as we need to with nature. We are so glued to our electronic devices that the time, that's fine. A certain amount of time in the day is fine, but we're glued to it. We don't really connect with nature, and nature has huge healing properties for us. I don't know how many of you feel that way, but I feel that any kind of disturbance or a question that I may have in my mind, once I go for a walk, by the end of the walk, it is resolved. Has anyone ever experienced that?
Yes, ma'am. Every morning I do go for a walk.
Right, right. So this is something which you could do. And Tabassum, maybe when such a situation crops up in future, you could just try this out. Just wear your tennis shoes or sports shoes and try a walk in nature. All right? It could be your favorite
Yes, ma'am.
aroma. Yeah, sorry, you wanted to say something?
No, ma'am. Yes, I do that things. I go in वो waterfall के पास. I'll do that things. whenever I
Yeah.
get hurt.
Yeah. Your favorite aroma? I mean, as I said, I just love aromas, and my favorite aroma would be green or sandalwood or lavender, whatever. These are specific to me. So you can just light an aroma candle or an incense stick, and the whole atmosphere changes, because all this is energy, outside energy, which impacts your inner energy, and the other way around. Any ritual which may seem empowering, watching a funny serial, watching Mr. Bean, mandala painting or any other painting, dance, just tidying your surroundings, reading inspirational poetry does it for me. And the last step, sorry, not still last, reframe your experience as a challenge. When you do that, you are looking for a possible life lesson in this situation. When Tabassum articulated the way she felt, she was articulating her experience, which proved to be very challenging at that moment, and still makes her feel that probably if it crops up in future again, she will have to deal with it. But all of us could see this experience was a challenge because it helped her and helped us learn an important life lesson, which is that people are trapped in the snow globe of their own creativity. We do not know their minds. We do not know the specific reason why they uttered these words thoughtfully, maliciously, thoughtlessly. We have no idea. So this is a huge life lesson that you've learned from this situation. So reframe it as a challenge. And as I said earlier, soothe your body's chatter responses. And of course, you can opt for any kind of meditation. I've suggested one, and the most brilliant book on this is a book by Ethan Kross. He is a clinical psychologist, and he's written this book, Chatter, The Voice in Our Head and How to Harness It. Okay, so this finishes our discussion on chatter. Any other questions before we move on to the next one?
I wanted to add an example
Sure,
for chatter.
sure.
When we were as kids in school, while teachers scolded us, we used to chatter in our mind why she's scolding us and why she's pinpointing me every time. But
Yes.
later on in our future, we understood that these things were important at that time. And if
Hmm.
we were not disciplined at that point of time, later on we would have been a naughty person or we would do some bad things. So
Okay.
she was securing our future.
Yes. Yes. There are always life lessons, but it depends on us that are we going to pick up those life lessons, or are we going to get into the spiral of negativity with all the mental loops that we are calling chatter? The choice is always there. Let's take a more extreme example with people of your age. You deeply love someone, you think that person deeply loves you, and then that person betrays you. Huge amount of chatter goes on, doesn't it? Nobody
Yes.
wants to say yes, miss.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, huge amount of chatter goes on. Oh, I was not good enough. That other girl, she kind of lured him away. Da 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 da. It goes on and on and on, and you feel bad about yourself. It doesn't make you feel any better. And worse still, you could latch on to someone on rebound. Oh, he's got another girlfriend. You think I can't get another boyfriend? On the rebound. And that person has been selected when you are emotionally very unstable. So that's not likely to be a good choice either. What could be done instead? You tell me.
Ma'am.
Uh, Ma'am, can we just like ignore the chatter, or in my case, like just do the opposite of what's all going in our mind? Like in my case, in my masters, I did not have a very liking to organic chemistry part, so I took it as a like master's subject. Similarly, in B.Ed, I don't have a very liking for maths, so I took maths as a second pedagogy. So in my case, like I have thought a way of like suppressing a chatter is to do the opposite of what like things going on in our mind. Like this is my way to handle the
You
chatter.
require, I'm using this adjective for you the second time. You require a lot of courage to do that.
Yes, ma'am.
It does
Yes.
require courage because you're taking it as a challenge. I mean, I'm sure I
Yes.
can do it. If only I apply my mind and a little extra effort, I'm sure I can do it. That's a challenge you're taking on. Very nice. But in this scenario where I'm saying your boyfriend or girlfriend has ditched you,
Ma'am,
I
in
want
that
what
Ma'am,
else?
case,
sometimes I would like to add that the silence or the calmness makes the chatter even more worse rather than calming us down.
Very true. Very true. But we all have this gyan. We can give gyan to each other ad infinitum. What happens really at that time, and how do you think you can deal with it?
Ma'am, I think at that time it often happens that you start to question yourself first. Key, where did I go wrong? That's I think the first place
Right,
or questions that we ask ourselves.
right.
What could I have done better? Where did I go wrong? But I think at the end of it, it comes down to, well, it happened. It's fine. Just
Exactly.
not meant to be, or it just we mistakes were made and there were consequences. But then you learn from it, you grow from it, and I think that's how
Absolutely.
it works.
Absolutely.
Ma'am, I
I,
wanted to add in Siddhant's line.
yes.
And when we start blaming ourselves and the person in front of us, that that person might have not been interested in me from the starting, and might be using, he or she might be using me for this purpose. So sometimes we think about, and we tend to take wrong decisions while being during ego, as in when we have some ego or when we are not in our senses, we take wrong decisions, and usually breakups or relationships, as in marriages, also ends up because of ego.
Right. Right. You're very right. So I
ma'am,
think what's very important is that you don't play the blame game. Don't keep blaming yourself. As Siddhant very rightly said, don't keep blaming the other. Don't keep blaming yourself. This is a situation I need to get on in life. Okay?
uh, Ma'am, like we can always think like what we would have been doing if we were in that other people's, like there's a saying like you put yourself in other person's shoes to know what they are going to or to what they are feeling,
I
so
don't
it
think
helps
when it's
us.
a negative situation, I don't think one should really get into that, because then you'll be again using the storyteller part of your mind. You get what I'm
Okay.
saying?
Yes,
When
yes, ma'am.
in this kind of situation, why did he do this? Why did she do this? Was it this? Was it that? You can't understand. You just can't understand another person. Initially, we'll do it when we come to anima, animus. We are going to do this in great detail. So just wait till we come to that section, and you will find that that is also very, very important. Okay? So should we get on to the next aspect, anger?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This is what the Buddha says. Oh, one sec. I need to make mindful screen. Can you see it as full screen?
yes, ma'am, we can see.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay. Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned, said the Buddha. Right. Do you agree with it? Anger hurts you more than it hurts somebody else.
Yes.
Yes,
But,
ma'am.
but there is another side to it. Psychologists like Polly Young Eisenrath, however, insist that anger is not wholly a negative emotion. It is often visionary anger, boundary setting anger. This kind of anger is not wrong. If we did not feel angry or upset, we would not even try for any kind of change in ourselves or in society. When you feel that this is unjust, you experience what is called visionary anger. It should not be like this. It should be something better than this. All right. Now, that kind of anger is fully positive. How you channel it is going to depend on you. Are you going to let it become aggression? If it becomes aggression, either way, it is harmful. Now, let me give you a very, very concrete example. You feel that injustice has been done to you by so and so. Now, there are two things you can do. You can lash out at that person, active aggression, or you can say, I'm going to stop talking to you, all the cutties. You're not going to feel good about it at the end of it. And probably neither is that person, or probably the person doesn't even care one way or the other. When anger becomes aggression, then it's wholly negative. But there are two aspects to anger, two types of anger, positive and negative. It's very important to set your boundaries. Now, as students, I would love to help you with any of your issues at any time of the day. But if you phone me after 10 o'clock in the night, I'm not going to answer your phone. I've set a boundary. That is my personal space, my time, and I do not want interference at that time. Any other time, I'm available to you. Boundary setting, it's very important to set your boundaries. In any relationship also, it's extremely important to set your boundaries from the beginning. That's when you get respected. Causes and my experience of anger. Now, quickly work on this in your journal. Just put numbers 1 to 8 and let's see what you do. I expect things to happen in one way, but they turn out differently. Just put a tick or a cross. People say things to me which sound unfair. People disagree with me. People say unkind things to me and even tease me about myself or my loved ones. Have you got these four?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Now the next. I feel angry when I'm betrayed by my friend. Definitely when you're betrayed by your friend. I feel disturbed and angry when my plans are vetoed by an authority figure. Oh, I created such a lovely lesson plan, so creative, so innovative, but my methods master shot it down. Whatever. Much of my anger is actually rooted in fear. I assume that those who are hurting me are doing so consciously and will never change. Have you got these four?
There are only
Yes.
three.
Got them?
Ma'am, we got only 3.
Three?
Last one नहीं मिला ना?
No. What about the earlier ones? This slide?
4. All.
You got these four.
Yes. Yeah.
Then I changed the slide. Can you see this?
And it's now different in the print.
Now you can. Okay, just answer these questions. I'm going to put them all up together. I'll
24.
give you a minute. Done? You just have to put a tick or cross.
Ma'am, actually, we can't find the fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth point in our journal. We can.
No. These have been
Sorry,
turned
sorry,
into
sorry.
questions. These have been turned
Okay,
into
sorry.
questions. So just do 1 to 8 and mark cross or tick. I have put the summary in your journals.
Okay, ma'am, got it. We have
Okay,
ticked it.
I'm reading the chat. Someone has written anger can be a defense mechanism too. And right in some situations, definitely. That is usually defense mechanism. Yes, to protect yourself. Yes. All right. But it comes from these situations. All right, let me just see what you've written in the chat while you're doing this. Apart from yes and makes it restless. Sometimes technology makes us believe that our own self-esteem goes down. Yes, of course, we are going to do that next time. Body image issues. That's the next session. Yes, ma'am, I agree with it. While using a phone, dopamine neurotransmitters is produced, which makes us feel good and watch more. Absolutely, Urvi. You're completely right. Okay. Please do share the website. Which website was I talking about here, Sadia? Ma'am, we can examine and observe our own emotional void and manage our thoughts. All right, great. All right, all this is agreed, correct. No, anger doesn't have to be completely a negative emotion. Oh, the one about twins. All right, I'll do that. The session in Bangalore. Okay, fine. I'll do that. I'll check the chat later again after a while. So if we were to summarize all of this, we get angry because we want things to be under our control and they are not. All right, this is a summary. This is there in your manual. There are often different feelings underlying anger. And that is why last time I spoke of emotional granularity. You remember that, students? Yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We get angry because we believe that people hurt us on purpose. And I made a joke of it and I said, we don't know our minds, but we think we know the minds of others. We get angry because we believe that people who anger us are not capable of change. वो तो ऐसा ही है, वो तो ऐसी ही है. When you do that and it angers you, this is the belief which underlies it. Now, again and again, I've said this. Hurt people hurt others because they're confused and lost. Happy people do not hurt others. This is very important, this section. Understanding the biology of anger. Understanding what Daniel Goleman called limbic hijacking or amygdala hijacking, which results in either venting or suppression of anger and getting into negative loops. A very, very simple, almost simplistic picture of the brain. Right at the bottom, you see the reptilian brain. The reptilian brain determines our instinctual behavior. It was the first part of the brain to be formed in evolution. It got layered over by the mammalian brain. This is a seat of our emotions and feelings, the mammalian brain. And it is where the limbic hijacking actually takes place. Finally, as we evolved, the brain developed one more layer called the neocortex. And the neocortex is responsible for cognition, language, sensory perception, and spatial reasoning. A little in detail. The reptilian primal brain at the basal ganglia. It is the oldest of the three parts of the brain and controls body vital functions such as heart rate, breathing, body temperature, and balance. It is made up of the brain stem and the small brain, as we studied in biology, called the cerebellum. The key concern is survival, fight or flight responses. So when you are a very, very usual kind of example is when you're walking in the dark and you feel that there is a rope-like thing around your leg, you immediately scream and you think that is a snake. It could be a rope. Mistaking a rope for a snake, it is what comes from the reptilian part of your brain because it is interested in your survival, nothing else. Fight or flight. At the
As well as
psychological, sorry?
we hear voices and names being said as in, for example, someone is screaming Shalki behind my brain, but there's no one there. So we have it in our mind.
That is more of an extrasensory response, more than fight or flight. It could be out of fear. Anything which is fear-based, strongly fear-based and connected with your safety definitely comes from here. Okay, Shalki?
Yes, ma'am.
The next part of the brain is a neo-mammalian or the emotional brain or the limbic system. It has 4 parts. We won't get into it in detail, but the hypothalamus, the amygdala, the thalamus, and the hippocampus. The most important here is the amygdala. All right? Focus on that. It's a seat of our emotions and memory. It links the conscious intellectual functions of the cerebral cortex with the unconscious automatic functions of the reptilian brain, of the brain stem. It regulates autonomic or endocrine functions in response to emotional stimuli. This is huge. And the automatic nervous system. So what happens when we get triggered, when we experience very strong emotions, a whole set of hormones get secreted and determine our action. It also is involved in reinforcing behavior. The last, the neo-mammalian, the rational brain, the neocortex is a logical brain, the center for higher brain functions such as perception, decision-making, and language. Now, in popular parlance, we say we lost it. What happens when we lose it? We actually experience a limbic or an amygdala hijacking. As I told you, the word amygdala hijacking was coined by Daniel Goleman, the writer of Emotional and Social Intelligence, way back in 1996. An amygdala hijack is an emotional response that is immediate, overwhelming, or out of measure with the actual stimulus because it has triggered a more significant emotional threat. A more significant emotional threat. Is it possible that you look at this statement and you think of certain moments in your life when you've overreacted and you yourself have judged it later as an overreaction? Anyone?
Ma'am, actually, in my master's, it happened with me that on my journal, because there were no photos or pictures sticked in the journal, I was given a late remark, which I believed it shouldn't have been given by the professor. So when I went with that journal to the HOD, and I had a dispute with my HOD, so I think somewhere in that phase of 15 to 20 minutes, I had cried a lot, and that was a overreaction to something which was not important, neither marks wise, or neither it was important as something which would give me good grades or bad grades. But it was just a reaction of mine, which I believe it exaggerated by my crying, or my words.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing, Samiksha. How do the others perceive this? Was it an overreaction? Do you regard it as an overreaction, or would you like to give some other example from your lives?
Whenever we have an argument with our parents, we overreact in some situations wherein they are trying to tell us or they are stopping us from doing something wrong, and we overreact and we start to fight with them. Later on, we realize it was our fault.
Okay. Okay. So that you yourself have changed your thinking about your behavior. How interesting is this? So something went wrong and it triggered and it seemed an emotional threat. Samiksha, in your case, what was the emotional threat? Can you locate it?
Ma'am, I think I had put in a lot of hard work in it, and when
Exactly.
other was like doing time pass, or they were not doing about or not concerned about the journal, and me being my 100% giving it, and then to me not getting a good remark, or getting a late remark, it was something that I couldn't accept it, or I couldn't take it.
Excellent. Excellent. You see how this kind of reflection is possible with your inner coach now. Your inner coach, your inner critic would have gone on saying, yeah, you're right. And this is exactly she didn't appreciate you. She didn't see the hard work, and therefore you were right in doing it. But something makes you feel uncomfortable because the inner coach is also trying to express its own point of view. Excellent. Right. So in the other case, what was the emotional threat that was perceived, which triggered this kind of behavior with the parents?
Ma'am, I think with the parents, the issue comes is not understanding, and sometimes we think they are authoritative on us, and a peer
Ah,
pressure also sometimes do play a role. Like, hey, how come
exactly.
your father doesn't love you to stay after 9 in the night? My father does. What is that? This is not done. So it's a
Right.
peer pressure also.
Exactly. How brilliantly you've analyzed it yourself. Let's now understand the biology of it. What happens normally? There is a stimulus. It goes to the thalamus part of the brain. The thalamus is in the emotional brain, if you remember. It goes to the frontal lobes of the neocortex. If there is an emotional element to it, it is sent to the amygdala. For everything, there will not be an emotional element. Go out and buy sugar. That is not there is no emotional element there. But if there is, how do you feel about it? Well, it could go to the amygdala. And then perhaps back to the neocortex for a mindful decision or a mindful response. So, a quick revision: stimulus, thalamus, frontal lobes of the cortex, amygdala, and perhaps back to the neocortex. What happens when you overreact during a hijacking? Stimulus and thalamus remain, but the rational part of the brain, the neocortex, is completely bypassed. And you go straight to the amygdala for an instant response. Now, this kind of thing is also not fully negative. If, for instance, a child is drowning, you can't wait for anything but a hijacking to occur, and you'll jump in and you'll try and rescue the child, right? But in most cases, what happens is that all these instances, these two instances also that you yourself have given and analyzed, the cortex was bypassed. It went straight to the amygdala. It was perceived as an emotional threat. And this is characteristic of us Homo sapiens. If we Homo sapiens feel that our image or our beliefs or something are challenged in a very threatening way, we overreact.
Really?
Sorry?
Ma'am, I would like to give my one example.
Just speak up. It's very soft, Tabassum.
सुनाई दे? Am I audible?
Okay.
मैम बोलू ना, सुनाई दे रहा है ना? One of my friend is Mansi. She is my best friend, and I have only one friend, and she is living in Pune for her studies. And मैं ना ऐसी हूँ कि मैं हमेशा बाहर घूमती रहती थी दूसरे फ्रेंड्स के साथ, बट मैंने खुद को लिमिटेड किया, अपनी बाउंड्रीज बनाई, और मैं सिर्फ मेरी बेस्ट फ्रेंड के साथ ही जाती हूँ कहीं पर भी। तो वो जब आती है ना 1 महीने 2 महीने के बाद पुणे से वापस, तब मैं उसके साथ कहीं भी घूमने जाती हूँ। तो इस टाइम जब वो वापस आई ना पुणे से, तो हमने प्लान बनाया रात में कि हम मिलेंगे। सुबह में उसने बोला मैं उससे मिलने वाली हूँ। देन आई वाज लाइक, मैंने उसके लिए फ्लावर्स लिए, मैंने उसके लिए खुद के हाथ से पास्ता बनाया, और मैं ना उसको बिना बताए घर से निकली। देन उसका कॉल आया था, बस तुम मत निकल, मेरे मामा ने बोला है कि वो मुझे बाहर लेके जाने वाले, तो हम बाद में मिलते हैं। तो आई वाज लाइक, फोन कट कर दिया मैंने, और मैं रोने लग गई कि क्या नाटक है इसका। पहले मैं गुस्सा हुई कि क्या नाटक है इसका, कैसी है ये वो। और मैं वही स्टेशन पर उतर कर मैं पहुंच गई थी, लाइक उसके घर के पास मैं पहुंचने ही वाली थी। और फिर मैं थोड़ा रोई और वो कॉल पे कॉल कर रही थी, मैंने फोन स्विच ऑफ कर दिया। और मैं कुछ सोच ही नहीं पा रही थी मैं क्या करूं, कि इसके लिए मैंने इतना किया है, तो मैं किसी और से मिलती भी नहीं हूँ, कहीं जाती भी नहीं हूँ, मेरी फ्रेंड के लिए इतना किया और वो ऐसा करती है।
Very
लाइक
good.
मैम मैं
Very
1 घंटा
interesting.
वहीं पर बैठी थी स्टेशन पर, और मैं रो रही थी और सोच रही थी बहुत। सोचने के बाद मैंने सोचा कि बस आज का जो प्लान बना है वो कंटिन्यू करना है। तो मैं गई और मूवी देखने, मैंने बोला चलो अब मैं मूवी अकेले देखूंगी, उसके साथ नहीं तो अकेले देखूंगी। गई, अकेले पिज्जा खाया, अकेले पूरा पास्ता खाया, मूवी देखा, उसके बाद में वापस आई घर पे। और माय फ्रेंड वाज टेलिंग मी कि तू ओवर रिएक्ट करती है हर जगह पर, तुझे इतना ओवर रिएक्ट नहीं करना चाहिए था। तो फिर वही मुझे बुरा लग रहा है कि क्या इसमें ओवर रिएक्ट था। वो नहीं
You
आई तो
know,
मैं अकेले चली गई।
one thing, Tabassum, and of course the rest of the students, we all overreact, but we all overreact in relation to different things. It's only a question of the things we overreact to. I mean, suppose something is very, very dear to you. Suppose I'm passionate to learn music and I love music. And I just find that every time I try and do it, my music teacher is criticizing me and making me do the same old thing. I actually experience an amygdala hijacking because it's very important to me. So the more important a thing or a situation is to you, the more likelihood there is of a hijacking. Now, if you are aware of it, then you can stop yourself in your tracks. And you can tell yourself, emotions are not bad. I've always said that. We wouldn't be human without our emotions, energy in motion. We wouldn't be human without that. But when they go haywire and they cause havoc, at that time we have to regulate them. So in order to regulate this situation, Tabassum could have just sat down and said, I'm feeling really, really bad. Allow yourself to feel bad for 10 minutes. Give yourself a time. For 10 minutes, I'm really going to feel bad. At the end of 10 minutes, you just start thinking, what are the other possibilities? And you will yourself come up with it, and you'll see that it was an overreaction and you actually experienced a limbic or an amygdala hijacking.
Even
Okay?
hurt, even she got hurt, she had expectations. So we shouldn't keep too much of expectations from someone.
Very true. Very true. We said last time itself that it is our expectation. Now, the fact that she has only one friend is not her problem. It's burdening her with too much. It's saying that I have to be a perfect friend for Tabassum. It's too much of a burden. And that to the perfect that Tabassum has in mind. You get that?
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm? Anyone else? Any response? Anyone else would like to say anything about it? Can anyone claim that you've never overreacted?
Oh, no, ma'am.
All of us have. All of us have. And then but the important thing is that you look at yourself, you analyze the situation, and you try and imagine what you will do next time if such a situation occurs. Just give me 1 minute. I need to plug in my charger, otherwise the laptop will go off. Just give me a sec. Yes, let's carry on. Okay, so nothing else that you wish to say? I'll continue.
Yes, ma'am.
Please continue.
Please continue.
Okay, so with fight or flight emotions triggered, stress hormones like epinephrine and cortisol get released and we overreact. I think you already know this. Now, how do you deal with anger? Shift the focus of your attention away from emotional pain with positive triggers. In the section on Mind Chatter, we talked about positive triggers, so I won't belabor it. Pause and recognize your pattern. There is definitely a pattern to our anger. Certain things will anger you, which will not anger me, and vice versa. Name it with emotional granularity. Accept it. Being human means experiencing anger. Don't push the blame on someone else. She's an angry person, I'm not, but I got hurt. I got angry because she triggered me. No, no, no. Unless there is an emotion called anger in you, you would not get triggered. It's as simple as that. So don't try and steer clear of it, because if you don't honestly confront it, you won't be able to do anything about it. This is a very, very important thing. Accept it. Being human means experiencing anger, but it's extremely important also to be able to manage your anger. Otherwise, it affects both your physical as well as emotional well-being. Support it. Where in your body do you experience anger? It's so beautiful, as I said, working with children. When you ask children this question and you make them feel, yeah, okay, what are you angry about? Where do you feel it? What color is it? Can you draw it? They will draw it or they will talk about it without a moment's hesitation. We human beings, we get into a lot of mess because firstly, we don't want to talk about it. Children will talk about it. Support it. Where in your body do you experience it? We've said this. Now, this is a very, very powerful practice and I've used it very often. Realize, first is mind coaching. You coach your mind. Realize that, like us, people are caught up in their own mind stories. This is a realization that you have to remind yourself of every now and then. Intense emotions, unpleasant body sensations, or difficult life situations. In short, what I usually call the snow globe of their subjectivity. Become aware of that and pause for a moment and open imaginatively the petals of your heart. Open the petals of your heart is you imagine a beautiful flower, whatever flower you like, at the center of your heart, and open very gently the petals of your heart to loving awareness. This is mindfulness. Think of a situation when you lost it. disrespectful or hurtful behavior. Pause for a moment and lead the group if you're working with children or yourself into a mindfulness practice involving reflection. Let's take a very simple occurrence that could happen in the classroom. As a teacher, you have turned around to write something on the board, and one of the kids has thrown something at you, be it a chalk or any other object. You feel you have been disrespected and you are hurt. How will you manage your anger?
Ma'am, firstly, I will try to identify who was the kid. I mean, as the class, who was it? If someone accepts it's the like the student accepts it, I was the person. So I might call him aside and ask him the reason. Or else, if someone doesn't accept it, I might explain it to the class how wrong it is. And if the anger or control over me is not, I can't control it, I might leave a class, I might tell the class to do some work and leave a class for a moment and take a moment to calm down myself and then come into the class and then ask the students what
Okay,
did I
okay.
do wrong or what was the
All
mistake.
right, all right. Samiksha, I would do none of this. Not a single thing that you've said. I'll tell you why. Not that I'm trying to say your response is wrong. This is what usually happens, right? I'm not belittling you, please. Firstly, I would not ask who has done this, because the person who's going to own up is going to feel bad. The rest of the class will have some kind of strange superiority complex or whatever feelings they have towards that person. I would not do that. In real life situations, I have worked with children in the Dharavi slums. And those children come to class with a lot of pent up anger and violence and all. When I have not been in that situation, but I was the person who was guiding that school. So when this happened, one day a very, very unfortunate situation happened. And something similar, I was called to school. What I did is, firstly, with their ties, the boys wear their ties, the girls their sashes, just tying up everyone's eye carefully. They thought almost that they were playing a game. And then to say, now that everyone's eyes are tied up, the one person who has done it could own up. So I'm being very mindful of the self-esteem of the wrongdoer. After that, pretending that nothing has gone wrong, carry on with the class. After the class, just pass a note to that child saying that you wish to see him or her, whatever the case may be. Don't take it on yourself. Don't become emotionally vulnerable by showing that you have upset me and therefore I'm walking out of class. They don't know what to do when you've walked out of class. It doesn't help anyone and it makes you feel awful. In all likelihood, your colleagues may ask you, "Arey, what happened?" When you tell them, they will give their gyan or they will add fuel to fire or God knows what. You need to deal with it with mindfulness. So keeping that boy's self-esteem or that girl's self-esteem in mind, you have just talked to him or her. And in the meantime, you can, if you have time, you can even do something more interesting. Once the blindfold is removed, you know who that person is. That person will own up, because when nobody's looking, it's easier to own up. Then you say, all right, the whole class, let's divide this and just work on it, work through this emotion or this occurrence. Draw a few columns on the board. This is a situation. A chalk was thrown at me. Next column, how I felt about it. And you put down your real emotions about it. I felt hurt. I felt disrespected. And I felt that I really don't want to be in this class. Okay. Next column, ask the whole class that if you were in my position, what would you feel about it? This is emotional granularity. They will give you some more ideas. Then you ask the class, what should I be doing with these people, with the person who's done it? What should be the consequence? And some of them will say you should punish him, you should write to the parents, you should go to the principal, you should do that. Saying, right, I've got your responses. But what I will choose to do is to deal with this person with loving kindness. And when the most powerful energy in the universe is the energy of love, because love is not an emotion. Love is a chemical, it's a substance that we are made up of. There is nobody who can't be touched by love. In another kind of situation where the whole class knows who that person is, suppose that person has spoken very, very rudely. Again, I have come across this kind of situation in Dharavi with my teachers reporting it. Invite that person to be at the center of the circle. Make the rest of the group sit around this person and say one good thing that they like about him or her. It could be something as silly as I like the shape of your nose, or I like your button, or I like your clip, or I like your pencil, or I just find that you're a very kind person because you shared your breakfast with me the other day, or whatever it could be. But it has to be something good. All that you do in class should be rooted in deep respect for every wrongdoer, every child, and that includes the wrongdoer. And it should be rooted in love, self-love, and love for the other. You can't go wrong. You just can't go wrong. Does this at all make sense to teachers, the rest of the class?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So first thing is that
Yes, ma'am.
you lose control. This has hurt you. Give yourself a few seconds to process this emotion of hurt. Don't deny it. It has hurt you, but your response will be a mindful response. In this way, you can create a win-win situation for everyone. Anything else you want to say about this?
Ma'am, it was really, Samiksha, by the way, it was really something new I got to know. Because if it would have been happen in future with me, I would have reacted the same way I told you. But because the situations you told and the examples you gave, in the future, if something happens like this to me, I'll make sure that I use the tactics and the things given by you. Thank you so much.
And do it with other emotions as well, other situations as well. All right. The first thing is not to allow that, see, that person has done it to anger you. If you get angry, you're fulfilling that person's agenda. Isn't it? Isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
My purpose is to anger you, to humiliate you. And if you feel angry and humiliated, then I've got what I want. There is no learning for me. And there is a hopeless feeling in you. So it's not a good situation at all. Allow yourself, process it for a few seconds, and then think of how can I respond to this in a very mindful way. Again, I'll give you one more example. One day I was called to the Dharavi school And the teacher said, ma'am, please rush here as soon as you finish your class in school, in the university, because today a man tied his child to the fan. Oops. Now that was really extreme. So please come and fire him and do that. I went there and I was determined I would do no firing. So I went up to that man. He was sitting there already looking very angry because the teachers had grounded him there. So I went up to him and I said, I'm not going to say what you should have done or should not have done. Tell me why you did it. And this man was a very, very poor man. And he said, you know, ma'am, I think I'm suffering all my life because I don't know English. And I put my child in this English medium school in the hope that he will learn English. And even after 2 years in this school, he's not speaking a word of English. So in desperation to punish him, I tied him to the fan. And of course, it was traumatic for the child. So I even brought the child forward and I tried to explain to the child and to the father that English is the child's second language. It will not come to him easily, but that the very fact that he's sending his child to an English medium school like ours means that we take on the responsibility that in the next few years, the child will be able to speak and write in English. And Beta, you'll do it? The child said yes. And then I just requested him that next time, if you think of something extreme like that, please check with us and then do it. He was so grateful. That man was so grateful. What happened over there? It was just a mindful response. I could have gone to him, and as an authority figure, I could have yelled at him, told him I'll report him to the police because the action was extreme. But how would it have changed him or helped the child understand what the father's expectations were? So we lose it, we do things, but there's nobody, there's no animal, no plant, nothing, no living being which does not respond to kindness. So with empathetic concern and kindness, deal with the situation. Now, this is a very, very powerful practice. And I will be doing it and repeating it with you when I do forgiveness. Make 3 columns. After every situation which angers you is over, make 3 columns. In the first column, you write who or what made me angry. Very honestly, who made me angry or which situation made me angry. All right? Next column, my thoughts and honest feelings. Don't try to be politically correct. Thoughts and honest feelings. And then the third column, you could write possible learnings or life learnings. Did I learn any life lesson from it? Was there some learning which was concealed in this situation? That is when you can give forgiveness. And forgiveness is so powerful. I'll be dealing with it when I do the session on meditation. But even right away, you can start doing this. All right, thank you very much. You can even do a meditation. And that's it for the day.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Very,
Thank you,
very
ma'am.
welcome. Very welcome. Let me see I got angry in America when I was there. Okay, because people gave me body image issues. Yes, of course, I understand that, Divyana. Okay, because anybody else has written anything? Let me see so that I can answer it. Okay. Right then. I'm sure I'll be well by Tuesday, and we'll meet on Tuesday for the next session. The next session is on body image, anxieties, and boredom. Okay. All right. Anything else?
Yes.
Otherwise, we sign off.
No, ma'am. Don't think there's any more doubts in class right now.
Okay. Okay. Just keep working on it. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Sonia. Thank you, everyone. God bless. See you on Tuesday.
Sure.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you, ma'am. Bye bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye. Take care.
Thank you, ma'am.
Very welcome. Very welcome.